Welcome back to the Hoops Temple podcast. Y'all know me, Nathan Schwartz. Joining me from Sacramento, Aaron Schroeder.
Good to see you guys. Glad to be here.
And joining us from New Zealand, Dylan Williamson.
Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning indeed. We have a fresh face of the NBA. Basically, every team has done something, moved someone, traded someone, cut someone, or, maybe they're just thinking for the future. We have a February 3rd trade with the Charlotte Hornets sending a 2029 second round pick for an Oklahoma City 2030 pick, although actually neither of those are the original second round picks. It is Phoenix's 2029 second for Oklahoma's 2030 or Denver's 2030 pick. Gentlemen, you want to break down who won that trade?
It's a great starting point. It really is. Guys, I wanted to start somewhere else just briefly with our.
You didn't want to start on that?
With our Super Bowl predictions, because that game is being held tonight. I see Dylan is obviously rooting for the Chiefs, given that he's wearing a referee's jersey currently. I'm going to go 27-21 Chiefs. Go ahead.
I'm gonna say that the M&Ms will have the best commercial.
All right, and Dylan.
You know what? No, never mind. Budweiser always comes to play.
And my bit is that Timothy Chalamet is going to come out in the Kendrick Lamar's half game performance.
The Bob Dylan.
All right.
Did you guys hear the connection? No. So apparently Not Like Us and one of Bob Dylan's songs both sample a Ray Charles piano riff.
Ballad of a Thin Man.
That's the connection, is that they both
two of the greatest diss tracks in music history.
Yeah, Bob Dylan and Kendrick Lamar.
Bob Dylan's gonna come out at the halftime show.
Yes,
is what you're saying. Gotcha. Okay.
As Timothy Chalamet.
Could you imagine if a real 80-year-old Bob Dylan came out instead?
It would be something. But no, we've got a whole NBA trade deadline, so we gotta shape up and refocus. Let's start with the deal that we didn't discuss last week because it hadn't happened yet. The Spurs have acquired De'Aaron Fox and Jordan McLaughlin. The Kings got Zach LaVine and a fake first, 2 real firsts, and what will eventually become 5 seconds. Chicago gets Zach Collins, Trey Jones, Kevin Huerter, and a 2025 pick from San Antonio, but it is their own pick back. Trade grades? Thoughts?
I'll give the Bulls an F, like an F minus. I was so mad about this because I feel like if you're Sacramento, you get Zach LaVine, who's playing pretty well. You get all these picks, which is nice. You get rid of Kevin Huerter, which is nice. Like you're fairly happy. It's like a B, maybe a B plus on a good day. If you're the Spurs, you get De'Aaron Fox, and you're thrilled about this. If you're the Bulls, you get 3 nothing players in a pick you already had. And if you're wondering like why the Spurs didn't give up more, why they held on to the Hawks pick, it's because the Bulls didn't ask for anything. The Kings got a good amount, but the Bulls are like, no, I really want all this nothing. Yeah, the nothing's good. And I think like when I considered a 1-to-1 trade from the Kings to the Spurs, we got a lot more, but we ended up like the Spurs didn't give up practically anything because the Bulls didn't ask for anything. It's just 2 teams pilfering the Bulls and then walking away.
Well, every year the Bulls sit at the deadline and do absolutely nothing, and maybe we've criticized them all these years for that, but maybe it's actually better given their level of negotiating skills. But I think that this is maybe more of an indictment of Zach LaVine's value. If you take Zach LaVine out of the deal, it makes sense for like they take back some bad players and they get a first round pick for taking on some bad money. If you just ignore the Zach LaVine portion.
You can't ignore the Zach LaVine portion, though. Like, the Spurs got an all-star in De'Aaron Fox. The Kings got... LaVine has made 2 all-star appearances. But
Let's say top 50.
Yeah, you got... and he's played very well this season. So, like, the difference between Fox and LaVine, 2 seconds and 5... Or 2 firsts and 5 seconds, like, yeah, that feels fair. But Chicago just giving up Zach LaVine to get the pick back that they already were going to get. It's top whatever protected. They were going to still get this pick. So it's like getting their 2026 back or getting the ability to trade other picks back. Like, sure, that has some value, I guess, but like Chicago should be the ones that are trying to get some sort of asset out of this. Couple of seconds, something other than just one pick and like yippee, you got Zach Collins, a terrible contract. Trey Jones, everybody talked about how good Trey Jones was going to be as a point guard for San Antonio. He's not been it. Kevin Herter. Aaron, how's the Kevin Herter experience?
It's really bad. It's really bad.
Really
He was
bad.
awful for the Bulls in this first game. It's a big surprise. He did say it was our fault, though. He said, he didn't get much opportunity. You know how insane that is? Like a regular normal team benched Kevin Herter 3 months ago, and we played him without fail every single day for 1.5 years, and he's talking about opportunity. Oh my god.
Yeah. So that's what it is. I got to watch Fox's first game in San Antonio. Does look like he's still kind of figuring it out. It is going to take some adjustments. But I think this is a really good thing for the Spurs. They'll be in the playoffs next year.
They could be in the playoffs this year. I don't think that's out of the question.
They could be, and maybe that's something we should check in on at the end. It's just kind of like the playoff picture and what's shaking out. The West is just
yeah. I don't know if the Spurs can make it up to win the California Classic, which has been the rebranded play-in tournament.
Basically. All right. So that gets us through the second, the third. On the fourth, we've got the Dallas Mavericks trading Caleb Martin, or acquiring Caleb Martin, I should say, for Quentin Grimes and a second-round pick. Now, I do think this helps balance the roster. Max Christie's coming in. He's going to be their defensive shooting guard. He actually looked really nice in the AD opener. Did not watch the games without AD. But any thoughts here?
Nico Harrison has a security team now. He had to pay people to follow him around because he's fearing for his life. And I understand the roster construction aspect for this trade, but I didn't understand just the player value. If you asked me, which one do you want, Grimes or Caleb Martin, I just would have said Grimes outright. He's a better player.
Yeah, that it's one of those ones where you have to like read the tweet because it's like, wait, why did the Mavs give up the second round picks in this trade? You mean that they received them, right? They received them, right?
Editing that trade. There was something with Martin's physical, and they ended up giving up a pick.
I don't know if they ended up editing it. Yes. So I believe it was originally 2. It is now just 1 second that Philly is getting for Martin. But once again, it's Nico
Harrison
only
received
making
1 second for upgrading the player.
It's Nico. Sorry, it's Nico making the same mistake again. It's trading a young guy with potential for an older player with less potential who's slightly worse and will be on the decline sooner or rather than later. Like it's the Luka trade part 2.
That's how we'll remember the Quentin Grimes trade. That's what the chapter's gonna be called, the Luka book. And that they traded Quentin Grimes away. I mean, Grimes is a fine player. He averaged 10 points per game and 3 rebounds, 2 assists. He's a really good shooter. I just don't get it. He's only 24, almost 25, and he's just a better player. I don't get the value swap. I have no idea what the Mavericks are doing.
Nico Harrison is really defining his own identity, I think, as an NBA GM. Like, he's got, I think, quite a clear vision of what he thinks a good team is. Sadly, he's wrong, which is a downside when you've got a very clear vision. It's not going to work out for him, but he does have an idea that he wants stronger, tougher defenders, and Martin is a better forward defender. At least than what Grimes is. He can, guard up more than what Grimes can do, which I think is the idea here.
Yeah, is it needed though? Like, are you really going to be guarding
Nope.
up when you have Lively, Gafford, or AD and PJ Washington, assuming those guys are going to take up the majority of your minutes at the 4 or 5? I mean, PJ will play some at 3, but like, if you go big, like you're going to play PJ at 4 or go small, PJ at 4, AD at 5. Also, just thinking about Nico. Nico is a lot like Larry Brown. And uh, tell me, what do you guys know about Larry Brown teams? Or what do you remember about Larry Brown teams?
I feel
What
like
was
we talked about this at some point. I don't remember the defining characteristics. Enlighten
every
us.
Larry Brown team? Every time he gets to a new spot, he trades basically the entire roster within a couple of years to get a scoring point guard and a defensive big man. And that worked in Detroit. That's how the Pistons were able to be constructed. It didn't work in Charlotte. It didn't work in Indiana. It's not worked in a lot of his steps. But like he can always say, it's a proven formula. It's how you win championships. See, I did it this one time. And I feel like Nico's, he's sure the idea of building around AD, like the team looks good. I watched them play Houston, and like the Mavs, it's a good team construction. That's not wrong. It just wasn't the best, and you had to give up better players to get this suboptimal roster. I mean, suboptimal in that you sent out Luka and brought back AD. Like, it's not a bad team. It just wasn't what he should have done.
It is so interesting because it makes you wonder about what he was watching last season. That you could even watch the Mavs run to the finals last year and have a different outlook on what was going on. I think for the most part, we were like, Luka is incredible. He just destroyed the Timberwolves and he destroyed the Thunder. The Celtics are so much better, and his body ended up breaking down. But we can keep going, right? But it was Harrison watching that being like, we should beat Boston, but it's Luka's fault that we aren't. And that's just an insane way to have viewed that game. I mean, the way they attacked him in the finals, where he was basically on one leg and somehow bleeding from both knees after every game, it was a bad luck. Like it was a bad luck. But the only reason you even got there, like, was because of how amazing and how dominant he had been. I just can't imagine the thought process.
Okay, we can't beat on Dallas too bad. Their fans are still reeling. Nico has the security detail, as you said, right? Like,
I just want to say one more thing about it.
sure.
It's almost Rob Pelinka like. When the Lakers won their championship, and then he immediately, for some reason, they demonstrated the formula that would win with the team that they had, just like the Mavs did with these, 48 minutes of rim running defensive centers and strong wings and 3-point shooting. Like you see that vision, just like Rob Pelinka saw. You play LeBron and AD, and then you put 3 and D wings around them, and it works every time. And then the both of them are like, okay, I see that formula now. I'm going to completely throw it out the window and makes an asinine move that was, trading out your defenders for Russell Westbrook, who immediately failed, as we all knew he would. Or even worse, it's, KCP and Kuzma is one thing, but trading Luka is even worse. So it's taking Rob Pelinka and elevating it. Nico Harrison is super Rob Pelinka.
At some point in this offseason, we'll rank the 20 worst trades of the 21st century. Just, from the
there's
James
number
Harden.
1 and number 2.
I think James Harden
be.
still needs to be in there.
Yeah, but you didn't know. You didn't know for Harden. You weren't sure, right? You hadn't seen it. It looked bad in retrospect. This is bad immediately. It is interesting. Pelinka looked at the Lakers and said, "No, the supporting cast is wrong. Let's fix this." It's so crazy to look at your team and be like, "No, I built the best supporting cast. I'm getting rid of the star. The star is the problem. My supporting cast is perfect." Like, it's easier to find stars than it is to find supporting cast players. It's just, all right, we could move on to a different trade.
I'm sorry. I know I said we need to move on, but I'm going to say the one thing. Davis was kind of right about playing with a center. If you watch the first half, of the Houston game, he cooked smaller fours. Like they tried putting Thompson on him, and they put Tari Eason on him. Like it absolutely worked for a moment. And then to start the third, they started too big, Şengün and Adams, and I was like, oh man, now I can't overpower a center again, and it fell apart really quickly. But he's
Yeah,
not wrong. If you play him against fours, it looks good.
No, I think that's the almost the worst part of Nico Harrison's idea is that you've got these two centers, and then he's like, okay, now I need another center to put next to them. Like Anthony Davis can't shoot. 1920 was the last time he shot over 30%. You can't play two non-shooting bigs. Like your offense is going to be cooked.
He was hitting last night until he
Yeah,
wasn't.
and the one game where he was actually really trying. And then he's going to go back to not trying and shooting 28% from three, and the offense is going to stink.
They might be a historically great defense, though. Like, they really might. Their front line is so bulky.
Yeah, the defense is going to be good, but the defense was like... Anyway,
all right. I'm going to read some trades that I don't think we really need to get too into. Why don't you guys stop me when I list a trade that gives you guys something to be excited about. We got the Pistons acquiring KJ Martin in 2 seconds for cash. I believe they've already cut KJ. The Celtics have offloaded Jaden Springer for the cost of a second-round pick. The Thunder got a second-round pick for getting Daniel Tice and then cutting him. The
I want to talk about
Wizards.
that one.
Oh, all right.
Someone needs to do something about this. Sam Presti needs to be eliminated. Needs to be neutralized. This guy is a national security threat. He's the 1 seed. And he's still taking on salary for draft picks. Oh my god.
I thought that was actually going to be a nice pickup. I was like, okay, Tice, hey, he's not great, but like the third center on coming off the bench, if you have some more injury issues, like it's fine. Like it's a solid pickup. But the fact that no, this is literally just a draft pick accumulation.
They don't have a right. Do they have another team that I don't know about where they could put all these players? Is there like a OKC Thunder 2? Do they have their G League affiliate can roster all these guys? They don't have like a minor league system to put all these guys in.
they're sending their picks to their G League team, yeah.
You just keep rolling them forward. They're like, all right, I got a 29 pick. Let's make that a 2030 pick and keep doing that. So you always have the assets. And then when you finally decide that someone's worth trading for, which let's see whenever they make that decision, they can go get them.
Yeah, I did want to talk about that. The fact that they didn't make any moves. Do you guys think that is a mistake from OKC? Because they clearly have obvious weaknesses. Like in the playoffs, I think they're going to run into the fact that they don't have enough shooters and enough ball handlers. Do you think that it is a real negative that they didn't go and try to address any of those issues, and that they're just going to, sort of roll into this playoff and see how things go, and it probably won't go perfectly for a team that's the best regular season defense of all time, has a top 5 offensive player, should be thinking like, how do we win a championship this year? The fact that they're like, no, let's hold on to assets and we'll see how we go when they have obvious weaknesses. Do you think that they should have done something more? Like, are you disappointed in their performance? The fact that they're the number 1 seed, but with obvious flaws, and the only thing they did was like swap second round picks around.
Yeah, absolutely. I called them myself and said, hey, why don't you send J-Dub to Los Angeles for LeBron James? We can make that happen.
At 42-9, I can't really blame them for just saying what we have works. Like, this is our identity. I think you can't say that the flaws, while maybe evident, are really impacting their ability to win basketball games. If they lose horrifically in the playoffs, then we can have that conversation. But I feel like internally they're probably not thinking that's going to happen because they've been steamrolling teams at a historic pace. I don't mind it at all. It is interesting in contrast. I'm sure we'll get to this, that the Cavs made a big trade in getting DeAndre Hunter. Like they made a pretty big swing, even though they're 42-10. So we'll have to see.
Yeah. kind of just depended on who they were actually looking to get. The fact that Cam Johnson didn't get moved, like, kind of surprised is me. I do think that OKC should have tried to address some of their issues. I mean, they are what'd you say, 40-9? I got 42-9 is their current record. But against other like really good teams, they're 1-1 against Cleveland, 1-1 against Denver, 1-3 against Dallas. Although that apparently isn't going to be a problem for them in the future, because they've traded away Luca. 1-2 against the Golden State. There's a number of the teams that they could face in the playoffs. 1-1 against the Spurs, who may or may not make it. Like, OKC can beat up on a lot of teams, but you can get their number. They do. Their small lineup worked really great against some teams, but like other teams, if you can go big against them, you might be able to take them out. So I'm not certain that they're not going to regret this move. I think J-Dub, I love him. I'm excited. He's a first-time All-Star. He's looked rough in a couple of their big games, and maybe he just needs another year or two. But
yeah, I think they still ask too much of him. Like they want him to be their starting small forward, power forward, or center, but then also be their backup point guard. And I just don't think he's quite up for it. They need someone else who can dribble the ball on the team.
Yeah. Well, Thunder aside, we're ready to keep moving through the trades.
Let's go.
Okay. We got a Sacramento trade. Jonas Valanciunas coming in for CD Sissoko?
City Sissoko.
And 2 seconds. CD has already been waived by the Wizards. Aaron, any quick or not quick Jonas Valanciunas thoughts?
Yeah, this won't be quick at all. I got about 30 minutes prepped on this one.
God damn it.
I thought Valanciunas looked fantastic last night, specifically against the Pelicans. And if you told me that the Kings would have a game where Sabonis had the worst plus minus and their backup center had the most, I would have said you lost your goddamn mind, because that's just not a possibility for most of our seasons. I liked Alex Len. I thought he had a good time here, but Valanciunas is just very physical. He's good around the rim. He tries his ass off. It is really nice to see that. And while the fit, like defensively, doesn't help cover our flaws, I think it helps improve our strengths. And the price was basically free. I mean, that was for nothing. You said to take on essentially his contract.
Yeah, Sacramento Kings, 12.3 points per 100 worse when Sabonis is off the floor, which is one of the biggest differentials in the NBA. And you now go from maybe the worst backup center rotation to Jonas Valanciunas, who's probably overqualified as a backup center. He's maybe not the guy that you want starting at the 5 if you're a really good team. But when he's your backup, like this dude is going to torture backup units. You've now got 48 minutes of just getting beaten up down low by a big white guy.
And the Lithuanian vibes, the Lithuanian connection. I think the fit isn't the expectation. I mean, I always want the rim protection, right? You want floor spacing. It's 2025, but the vibes and what he does bring complements Sabonis, and he can kind of run a similar play style because our backup centers were it was Alex Led. We had some like Isaac Jones stuff, and he's only like 6'8", and so it's just nice to see that.
Yeah, I remember texting you during one of the Kings games. I don't think it was the Pelicans one, but saying that I kind of liked what Levine was doing out there when it was Levine, Keon Ellis, Carter was out there, and Murray, and they were really moving up and down the court. Jonas, with kind of the blended or the backup unit, if they're running, he can be a trailer. He is not a great 3-point shooter, but he has those moments. He has those flashes. I remember, or what was it? Jonas Nowitzki Eunice, the joke of him being like the Dirk hybrid when he hit like 6 threes in a game. It's not every night, but like
it's only against the Clippers, actually.
If he anchors the defense, gets the board, lets the other guys get out and run, and then can provide minimal spacing, just a little bit, like that could be really nice. I hope good things for your Kings.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We need it.
It does give the backup unit also an out offensively. Like if there's nothing going, like you can just throw the ball to Jonas Valanciunas in the post. Like he's a really big guy, and against backup centers, like that's probably decent efficiency.
No, it didn't work. It didn't work defensively against Zion, but they did put him on Zion for a little bit. I tweeted some
Revenge.
stat. I didn't. This was right before the game ended. I don't know if Zion took another shot, but I think was it 38. Zion is shooting 38 for 46 in his last 3 games against us. And for whatever reason, we can't figure out how to guard him or even make him miss any shots at all. I remember Harrison Barnes guarded him a lot. If you're wondering how that went, really unsuccessfully. But they had Valanciunas on him, and he was basically running like a 20-foot drop coverage. He's just like waiting at the rim, and it kind of worked for a second, just because Zion is so big and so strong, and the only one really close to that size and strength was Valanciunas. He's our Zion stopper. We're gonna make him shoot less than 70% from the field.
Good luck with that.
It was more intriguing than watching Trey Lyles just get blown by or just pushed over. And so I was like, this is interesting. Like, because Zion's not going to take an outside shot. Might as well just camp your 7', 270 guy right in front of him, see what happens.
Oh, not trying to put Doug McDermott out there.
No, Valanciunas did have a couple really nice defensive plays in the third quarter, and getting vertical and rotating well. But all right, we can move on.
All right. We got the Bucks, Wizards, Knicks deal. Milwaukee acquiring Kyle Kuzma, Patrick Baldwin Jr., Jericho Sims, and second-round draft compensation, undefined. Wizards getting Chris Middleton, AJ Johnson, a 2028 Milwaukee first-round swap, and the Knicks get Delon Wright and cash.
Dylan, what do you think about this?
I mean, it's kind of the Bucks bitching out and trying to save some money, moving a player who's good when he's playing, but has really struggled to stay healthy. For a guy who's maybe the worst player in the NBA, impact-wise. Like, there's always the idea that he's gonna like play better now that he's on a good team. But like, he's not a good shooter. He's not a good defender. He's not a good passer. Like, is that the compliment that you want to Giannis? And so, like, I guess they had to do something, and he's maybe the best player that they could get for such a low asset return, and also the fact that they had to, save money as well, costs you something. But yeah, like they've made themselves a worse team. They've pushed their chips in on a bad player. Giannis to the Lakers 2026 is now inevitable, and it's gonna, ruin the NBA.
Nate, I saw
Giannis to LA.
That Giannis or Kyle Kuzma was going to be on the Bucks longer than Giannis. He was going to outlast him there. That's a great take. It really is. I understand the trading theory. We're getting rid of Chris Middleton, someone that basically has not been able to see the floor consistently for years. And for someone who at least will play, gives you a better chance of winning a title with Giannis on your team. And maybe I just really love rebuilding teams, and getting rid of contracts and getting AJ Johnson is like so much more appealing than taking like maybe marginally improving. But it's possible Kuzma finds God and starts approaching the game differently, because it got really messy. Like one of the worst teams of all time, this Wizards team. And it really felt like he was driving them down. I mean, I think the net rating was like -10. You know how fucking hard it is to make the Wizards 10 points worse? It's impossible, but he was doing it. I did my super scale on the 1st of February. You guys want to guess where Kyle Kuzma placed?
391.
Dylan?
I'll take the over on that.
It was 246.
Oh,
right below Precious Achua, Mason Plumlee, Anthony Black, Cam Whitmore.
I mean, those are all good players. Plum Dog,
Bones Highland
Black.
Just got waived. It's a lot of counting stats just nuked by the worst advanced numbers you've ever seen.
Yeah, I just pulled the on-off numbers, and my God,
Yeah.
Net rating when on the floor -21,
You know,
which is
you
worst of all time. And the on-off -11.8. They're 12 points better when Kyle Kuzma just gets out of the fucking way. Like
I
so
believe that.
99 offensive rating when he's on, -10.5 difference on versus off. That is just incredible.
the worst part is you want to. This is a paraphrased Kyle Kuzma quote, um, but he said something to the lines and to the effect of, I just got to get out there and play my game. They keep wanting me to be a part of the team and fit in, but I think that's why I'm off. I think I just got to go out there and do my own thing and not worry about
Mm.
making the extra pass anymore.
Look, he's not a system player. He's a system. Okay.
Mm-hmm. That's so stupid, and that's why I hate this trade so much. It's not just like it's why I'm glad he's not in Sacramento. I know that was floated for years that they're interested in him. Thank God someone else bit the bullet on this because it just keep him away from me. It's the approach. It's the attitude. You can be bad at basketball, but really embrace other things and say, just gotta help the young guys out and gotta do these things and try to win some games. I mean, there's a compilation of Kyle Kuzma air balls from this season that's multiple minutes long. I don't know. I just don't know what he's doing.
29% from three and 26% from long mid range.
Jesus Christ. Do you guys think it's possible that, being now the third offensive option on a fairly good team, that you see a little bit of 2020 Kuzma?
Well, the trouble is that the idea is like has been of proponents of trading for Kyle Kuzma is like, okay, yes, he is the worst player in the NBA, maybe the worst player of all time. But he's on this dog shit team, and so once he gets to a better situation, he'll
Yeah.
start playing seriously. But like you just said, like this is also an incredibly stupid guy, like with no self awareness. Like you're gonna tell me that like he's gonna be locked in now, like this fucking idiot.
So
I love the honesty because he is just a fucking moron.
I do think there's potential for this. I do think that there's a chance that works. It is a talent upgrade with what Chris Middleton is at right now. But I think part of the problem is what is the plan here? Because one of the things that I heard was the plan is that way Kuzma can play the 4 and Giannis can play the 5 more, and the small or the Giannis at 5 lineups haven't worked well yet. I'm like, that's not going to work. Kuzma's not good secondary rim protection. So if you're trying to shift Kuzma back to the 3, he's been playing a lot of 4 in Washington. Now he's got to chase faster guys. So now he really needs to like up his defensive impact and intensity. And at some point, I'm like, I would have just much rather had, even if it cost me more, I would have rather traded a first and this swap if the Bucks can do that even, and tried to bring back Cam Johnson, whom on an individual talent scale, you measure it however you want. Cam Johnson is not as talented as Kyle Kuzma, but he fits so much better and is willing to do all of the things. I see those looks. No, you
What are
put
you
them
talking
out
about?
there. You ask.
What's going on?
I'm just saying, Cam Johnson is not as good as an individual player as Kyle Kuzma.
No, he's
the problem
way
is,
better. What are you talking about?
no, he's just better at fitting in a team
Oh
and being
God.
a
That's
third
part of
option.
basketball. That's part of basketball.
Yeah,
If you're not a star player, you have to fit in. Cameron Johnson has
yeah,
understood that his entire career since
and
since
Kuzma has it.
2020. He has
There's
not. He wins. Yeah.
there's more upside with Kuzma. Kuzma is a better player.
I
If
don't want
Kuzma
Kuzma's
just
upside. The upside is this is the upside is bad basketball. I want less upside. I want him to do less things.
sure, you just want him to do it better.
Is Aura winning championships now? Like, is that the measure?
That was
Pink sweaters
indefensible.
are wearing.
Oh my god.
Interesting to your point, Nate. Talking basketball again. Giannis at center this year, 128 offensive rating. Basically the worst defense in the NBA when he plays the 5.
Mm-hmm. And Kuzma's not going to help that.
I do still see a lot of videos, and I'm like, I'm not trying to hold everyone to the gold standard, but it's like top 10 defenders in the NBA right now, and Giannis is always on there. And it
Oh
just
yeah.
has not been the case this year, really starting last year. And the personnel really like it's exponential how good defensive personnel around you makes you look better as a defensive player. And there really isn't much around Giannis, but he has not been that high impact defender this season. Great offensively, obviously, but
Yeah. For any of the other teams, for the Knicks, this is just giving up Jericho Sims for nothing. Cash. Can't believe that. Yeah. Shout out Ariel Huckapori. Huckapori. I gotta learn how to pronounce this guy's name, but freaking loved him in the draft like 4 years ago, and then he blew out his knee. And then I loved him in the draft 3 years ago, and then he blew out his knee. And I loved him in the draft 2 years ago, and he blew out his knee. Then coming into this
Now's
draft, they
his
got
time.
him. They got him with like the 54th pick, and he still moves well. He moves
Yeah.
impressively well for a guy that's had like as many lower body surgeries. But
I remember you called it out. I studied like 14 guys in this draft, and you're like, yeah, the 55th pick. I really like that guy. I'm like, Jesus Christ.
it's just been on my draft board for 4 years. I'm like, yeah.
did the
He
Knicks get
basically
anybody else like on the trade that didn't in this trade deadline, or is it just the classic Knicks trade of shipping out one guy in their rotation and getting nothing back? You got to shorten that
basically
rotation,
that.
guys. You have too many bodies.
Basically that.
They
I
got
like
they got
Sims.
DeLon Wright and they got Cash.
And for the Bucks, though, I feel like I like the Sims piece more than I like the Kuzma piece because, like you said, like Giannis at center wasn't working. Like, oh, here's their backup center situation is pretty horrendous. So here's somebody, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, now they've got two options. They can try to go small and then give up 130 points per 100. And then they can swing it back around and go big and play Jericho Sims.
Yeah.
With Giannis and then score 99 points per 100. The Bucks are cooked, man. It's so sad.
And they have Patrick Baldwin Jr. All right. Speaking of another team doing the same thing they do every year, Toronto traded a first-round pick along with Kelly Olynyk, Bruce Brown, and a second-round pick. Now, this is the pick from Indiana. So this is basically Bruce Brown and the Indiana first that they got for Pascal Siakam for Brandon Ingram.
I really don't understand any part of this deal. It always bothers me where, okay, you're the Pelicans. You've had Brandon Ingram for 15 years. Every single year he's been available for trade. And you haven't done it. You haven't gotten the first Sacramento's going to given you. You could have had Keegan Murray or something. And now it's 1 minute before the Simon's due date on your Canvas page. And you're like, oh, shit, I got to submit this. And you finally just grab this Toronto package, which is by all means horrible. But also, you don't want to pay him anyways. And for Toronto, the timeline and the fit doesn't make sense either. It's like a C minus to an F for both teams.
I mean, I'm not blaming New Orleans for not getting other assets earlier. Like, this is what was available. I actually they got a first. That's probably all they were gonna get at this point. Like, at least you got something. You could have capitalized
they had him
earlier.
50 years, and they could have traded him every single offseason and every single deadline. He was available and in trade talks, and now your team is 12-40, and you got one first-round pick for one of your best players of the last 5 years.
When you consider the players that they had to take on as well, like Bruce Brown, Kelly Olynyk, Davion Mitchell, these are all negative salaries who have money going forward. So if you take out the value of that, like that's probably like 2 or 3 seconds alone. And the general math is that a first is worth around like 4 seconds. And so they basically got 1 second round pick for Brandon Ingram.
What did they get for Davion? Because they rerouted him to Miami.
Yeah, Davion got. Actually, I don't think Davion was part of this deal. Well,
that was a
Davion,
different deal.
Yeah, yeah. So Davion goes to Miami for PJ Tucker and the Lakers 2026 second round and cash.
Okay, it's like another second rounder. I do love that PJ Tucker was just universally used as salary filler for every single trade. They're just like, you hold on to PJ for a second.
Yeah, him and Dennis Schroeder, I think both have gone through 5 different organizations. They've not played for all 5, but been moved a few times. My general take on this Brandon Ingram trade is like, you didn't give up that much and you got some talent for Toronto. Maybe resign him. I hope that you can work out some sort of a deal and be like, listen, this was your value around the league that we were able to get you for
a second round pick.
Indiana's first, hey. But like, if you can re-sign him and just add some talent to your roster, I don't think it's a bad move. The real question is, what are the Raptors really trying to build? They have like 3 small forwards, a point guard, and a center who's like a true center that doesn't fit the modern era. It's not looking great, but I kind of described it on TikTok as like throwing $20 at the lottery. Yeah, it's probably a little bit more than you need to spend, and it's probably never going to be anything. But like, if it hits, sure, that's worth it. Like, why not?
I'm trying to think of what I don't like about that analogy. Give me a second. Because you're not going to win the fucking lottery because it's Brandon Ingram and you have to pay him $40 million a year. That's not the lottery. This isn't like a flyer.
You're shorting Brandon Ingram as well?
Yeah, I'm shorting Brandon Ingram. We know what he is. He's like 27. He's hurt all the time. The fit doesn't make sense. The contract doesn't make sense. And to your point about Toronto, like, well, I'm not sure what they're building. I have no idea what they're up to. And I guess they're ready. This is I'm ready right now trade. We're all in. We're gonna make the playoffs, which is like, I think it's reasonable to say they could be a 6th seed in the Eastern Conference, but it is just very strange to say like, all right now is like when we're gonna start acquiring massive salaries.
What I will say from watching the Raptors is maybe not all Raptors have come to this conclusion yet, but I certainly have. Scotty Barnes is not a number 1 on a title team. Scotty Barnes is more of like a modern day Scottie Pippen in that he is really versatile defensively and that he can kind of run the point in some situations, but probably shouldn't be your full-time point and really needs to be next to a more talented player. And like, having him and RJ Barrett on the same team, the amount of times like that he kind of defers to Barrett and Barrett is like the option 1A, that's rough. Like the upgrade from Barrett to Ingram will hopefully be helpful. Just then what do you do with RJ Barrett? Like, it's not great, but it's something.
I mean, they've got like at the rate they're playing, they've got like a 20% chance of a top 2 pick. And so
Yeah.
Like, yeah, Scotty Barnes is a strong second option. Ingram is a decent third option. RJ Barrett as your 4th option is pretty good value. So if they can get a guy who's a little bit better, of course they run into the problems that you mentioned, that Brandon Ingram is just not on the timeline. Like, if we're taking some superstar in this draft, we got to wait 6 years for him to be good, and we got Brandon Ingram at 38 years old as our 3rd option. I believe maybe it's not so good.
I believe in the maple flag, like propaganda. Cooper flag to Toronto, going north of the border. He'll be the next Wemby.
And Ingram makes even less sense if that happens. It's
they're gonna get another forward.
More forwards, please.
More forwards. All right.
Actually, yeah, maybe that makes this even worse. The fact that they've now got so many forwards that they're a 30% chance of a top 3 pick in the draft, and now can't take a forward.
If you're letting this,
the Raptors are not going to take a forward. You think they're not? Are you kidding me?
Yeah,
they're probably so like we're going to get another one. Ace Bailey, come on down.
Another one.
Like Scotty Barnes is playing point guard.
Okay. On to the trade that never was. Lakers got Mark Williams for Dalton Connect, Cam Reddish, a 2030 first-round swap, and a 2031 unprotected first-round pick. This deal unfortunately got rescinded.
You started the
Maybe
episode by
fortunately.
saying we'll talk about a trade that hadn't happened yet last week, and now we get to talk about a trade that still didn't happen yet.
Yeah. Yeah. So this one just made me sad from a like Mark Williams human perspective, because like I really do enjoy watching Mark Williams play. I brought him up in our top 100 conversation of like, hey, if Mark's healthy, he deserves a top 100 consideration for this season. And just the failing of the physical really makes me worried that he will never be healthy in his career and enjoy what little of him we get to see.
He
Yeah,
must have the black
what has
leg
he
or
played?
something.
What has he played? Like 30% of his career games, and the Lakers thought that like there was going to be nothing in the medical report.
I mean, sometimes you get hurt, you land wrong, you fall wrong. They're like, he's a bouncy player. That can happen. Um, I think I would love to know what was in the medical report. No one will ever tell us, but like to be so bad that you had to rescind the trade because like guys have injuries all the time. Like we traded for Luca. Luca's hurt. Luca's still not playing. Like, could we fail his medical? Sure, he's not
Wouldn't that be
healthy.
funny?
Send him back. It
That'd
must
be
have been
amazing.
shocking. I mean, like I said, like it must have been like some ancient disease. He must have like leprosy when he showed up, like with like fingers falling off or something. Because for the Lakers, well, I didn't love the price they paid initially because it was fairly steep for some of those injury
Mm-hmm.
concerns. I understood the fit. Like you don't have a center, your center Jackson Hayes. This is the worst center situation in the entire league. Do you want to have a chance to have a playoff run? Yes. Go get Mark Williams. For them to say this dude is so hurt, I don't even want him anymore, knowing that you're never going to win the championship with their current roster, it must have been so bad. And also now you get to take Connect back and like, hey buddy, good, where'd you go? Good to see you. Like, welcome back. And like you get to do this whole thing again. And because the deadline had passed, you don't get to renegotiate this. And on previous trades, like if it was the day before, you could say, okay, well, give us an extra second. We'll just bite it and go through with this. But it must have been so bad for them to not want it.
Yeah. And now you got to try to bring back Dalton Connect into the fold, which, as a Lakers fan, remembering Hornets trades gone wrong in the past, like that derailed the Kobe Powell Odom experience. Like things were never
Yeah,
the same
Lamar
after
Odom
the attempted
was
Chris
not a
Paul
fan of
trade.
that.
Yeah. Like, I mean, how do you get a guy to come back and be like, hey, listen, we need you to sacrifice for the team. We need you to do this. We need you to like, it's like, no, you guys fucking tried to trade me.
To Charlotte, of all places.
Yeah. I think they were the New Orleans Hornets at the time. So slightly better, but actually, I don't know if that's better. Charlotte's not a
I
bad
would say
trade.
Charlotte's probably better than New Orleans.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Isn't Charlotte like one of like the most dog shit cities in the
I
NBA?
think that's no, I think that's New Orleans.
I
I think
mean,
New Orleans
Really?
has like the nightlife, right? But from my understanding, it's like it's not a very nice city.
Interesting.
Charlotte's by a beach. So, like, you
Mhm.
get some nice weather. Kind of depends on what you like. Do you want to go to a beach or do you want to go to Mardi Gras?
Doesn't New Orleans have like really good food?
They do have good food. Get that gumbo, get that Cajun, get that Creole food.
Hmm.
Yeah. All right, you talked me into it. New Orleans is better. All right. Sad for the trade that never was, but we've got other trades that were. This started off as a 3-teamer, became a 5-teamer. We've got the Golden State Warriors getting Jimmy Butler. Miami receives Kyle Anderson, Davion Mitchell, Andrew Wiggins, the 2025 Golden State first, which is top 10 protected. The Pistons walk out of this deal with Dennis Schroeder and Lindy Waters III. And the Utah Jazz, KJ Martin, Josh Richardson, second round pick. Then, as the aforementioned, Toronto gets PJ Tucker and the Lakers 2026 second round. So, Jimmy to the Warriors. Does this make them contenders?
On the edges, on the outskirts, I'd say I'm at least intrigued by if you're looking like the 2 runs of the last 5 years that were just like, how the fuck did these guys make the finals or win the championship? It's like, say, it's Steph doing it in 22 and it's Jimmy in 23. And now we're back. And then maybe there's something there, like kind of the last window for both these guys to really go all out. And there are teams in the West that I think they beat. I think they could beat Houston. I mean, Nate talked about a bit about Houston's kind of playoff outlook, but I think there is a path for them. And if you're the Warriors, you built this entire thing around loyalty to Steph Curry, and this is like Steph Curry's team. Are you not gonna try one last time for him, even if it's not great in the long term? Yeah, you have to give this a shot. You're not gonna go out saying like, kinda half-assing it, half doing it, saying, "Well, we'll see. We don't really wanna give up too much for him." No, you do this, and you only really gave up Wiggins.
Yeah, I mean, you were able to keep Quentin Post, who's turned into such a bright spot for them. Was he the 52nd pick of the draft? Been coming out, been hitting threes. I'm not gonna lie, when he showed up in that Lakers game like 2 weeks ago, I was just like, "Who the hell is this guy?" Like, and I watch a lot of basketball. To have a player in the NBA that's getting minutes, and I'm just like, "Who is this guy?" That does not happen all that often, but his spacing actually might be the thing that makes this work. Because I was kind of concerned about having Jimmy and Draymond and Kaminga all trying to play at the same time. Because I would assume that's part of the plan is that you play Jimmy a little bit more at the two. Um, that seemed like a bad fit to have that many non-spacers. But if your center can shoot, why not?
Yeah. I saw someone calling Quentin perimeter because all he can do is shoot. He's got nothing in the post. He
That's
can't
good.
finish.
That's
He's
good.
can't finish. He's a terrible defender. Like all-round bad player apart from the fact that he can make some jump shots. And they're now forced to start this guy as their starting center because they've brought in another non-shooter. Jonathan Kaminga, his game is very similar to Jimmy Butler in a lot of ways, like these big forwards who can't really shoot but can like use their body, use their strength to get inside. So that like there's a lot of duplication there. Like maybe like Kaminga goes back to the bench and they're having 48 minutes of discount Jimmy Butler. Um, but yeah, like I suppose it's the best player that they maybe could have got. The fit isn't good. Like the roster construction would probably be better if they could have traded Draymond instead. Would the Heat have said yes to that? Still probably, but that's you got to keep Steph happy, and probably part of that is not trading Draymond. Even though that would have been better for the team.
It's you buy into your identity. You make a decision about who you are, and they're a Steph and Draymond led team until they retire. That's just how it's going to be. And maybe it's not smart, maybe it's not the best, but you give it one last shot after this amazing 10-year stretch for Golden State.
Meanwhile, Clay's over in Dallas being like, "What the hell, guys? What the hell?"
I signed to play with Luca, and now I'm the only guy on this team that can shoot.
It's just I'm gonna say if the Warriors make it farther in the playoffs than the Mavs, it's gonna be it's gotta be rough to be Klay Thompson. I do like this. Hey, it's kind of it's setting the end. We have 2 more years. The Butler extension, great. Curry, please retire at age 38. After that season, like we need to move on to the future. You're old, Draymond's old, Butler's old. There's no 2 timelines. It's this one timeline, and then we'll figure out which the pieces still fit afterwards. Any thoughts on it from the Miami perspective?
Kind of goes back to what I was saying about New Orleans, where you waited so long and now this is all you get. I understand it's a bit different because Jimmy's like a star worth trying to negotiate with, but how did we get here? Am I happy they got Andrew Wiggins out of a depleted, angry asset, or am I disappointed that it even got this far? That they suspended him 3 times, that they had this nasty back and forth. They wouldn't give him the extension. I don't know. I think it's like a B. They'll be competitive this season, and I like the pick they got.
I don't know that you're ever going to really light a fire under Andrew Wiggins if Jimmy Butler didn't do it, if he wasn't able to like keep it after his one great Golden State run, then that led to a title. Maybe that's just not for him. But the Miami body fat, hustle culture, whatnot, has produced some good results for some people in the past. And now he's arguably their second or third option on offense and second or third most important defender. Like that feels like a kind of safe place for him to be in, where he's not asked to do too much and might work out good for Wiggins.
Could this be the return of Heat culture? They had to retire the jersey, retire the court because their culture was so rancid that they couldn't brag about it anymore. Could this be the return?
Andrew Wiggins gonna set the tone. Do you guys see him? I don't know what the Heat were doing. They were all like doing drums or something at some event, and Wiggins was just like kind of just half-assing it, like Koa wears like
Sure,
Wiggins
of course,
is not happy. I had to look that up. What were they doing?
I don't know. The only other interesting thing I see in this is like Utah just collecting assets, not giving up anything, and Detroit getting Dennis Schroeder, whom, provided he doesn't get cut, which there was already some talk that he wanted a buyout from Detroit, but if he sticks around, like he's a good enough point guard that you're disappointed in him in the playoffs. He can be either a secondary guard with Cade or the bench point guard. And like that's a good role for Dennis Schroeder. That's not asking too much of him. And is something the Pistons really could use right now.
It's the Heat Gala.
The Heat Gala.
They have their own
gala.
It's like a charity. It's like some charity event. There's the video of them like playing drums with like water on them, and so they're all like splashing and stuff. And Wiggins at the very end, just kind of like. He's in. Right, he's bought into the culture.
Maybe. Okay. Just gonna keep.
Dennis Schroeder is like the 25th best point guard in the NBA. Like he's a guy that in the right situation can really help a team. And I think that he could provide some value to the Pistons, or if he gets bought out, could provide value to a contender. Do you know how much he's getting paid? Is he over the mid level?
I think it's like 12.8.
So can an apron team?
I don't believe so.
Him? Right. So he's got to go to a non-apron team if he gets bought out.
Yeah, and I think that's the same deal with Bruce Brown, who is also in.
He's making like 20 million, so he's
out negotiations. Yeah, there's only so much you can do. Schroeder's 13. But speaking about guys who just got bought out, the Washington Wizards acquired and cut Reggie Jackson. They also received the worst first-round pick in 2026 between the OKC Thunder, Houston Rockets, and the Clippers. And what they sent out to acquire this was Jared Butler, a 2027 second, a 2028 second, and two 2030 seconds. So there is Dylan's 1 first is worth 4 seconds exchange. Although I want to point out that this is even worse because this is the worst of 3 teams' firsts.
All of whom are probably going to be good.
All of whom are going to be good. Yeah, like Houston
one
Clippers.
Of whom might be like you've probably got like a 50% chance that this is the 30th overall pick.
Yeah, I mean like OKC is probably gonna be the OKC pick. And whereas the seconds, you got the more favorable of Golden State and Phoenix, and the more favorable of Phoenix and Portland in 2030. Like that's those could be decent seconds versus one not good first. Nothing too interesting here, but wanted to read that one out. Then you got
incredible value.
Then you got the Charlotte Hornets receiving a first-round pick to take Yusuf Nurkic from the Phoenix Suns, who received Cody Martin, Vasily Micic, and a second. Any interest in that? Phoenix?
Yeah. Sorry. I
Yep.
jumped the gun. I was so excited to talk about how dog shit Phoenix is. And I was like, yes, let me in. What
you
a
don't think
mess.
Vasilicic is going to fix them?
No, he's going back to the EuroLeague. But is it really? Is Yusuf Nurkic so bad that you had to offload a first-round pick? Just tell him to stay home. You did not get anything for this deal. There's no assets coming back, and so why not just say, you know what? Here's your contract. Stay home. Never come back. We have other centers now. We have Nick Richards. You had to give Charlotte a first-round pick to get rid of him, especially when you're so shallow as a team.
I'm trying to figure out which first-round pick it is because it's 2026. I think it's Phoenix's own 2026. Fixing the deal. Yeah,
I have a pretty crazy headline from 10 minutes ago. Do you guys want to hear it?
Yeah.
This says from Underdog NBA, Joel Embiid believes it will likely take another surgery and long recovery period to get his knee right, per Lisa Salters. Damn.
Well, it's a good thing that the 76ers just got 4 second-round picks. Maybe they can use those to Band-Aid up his knee. God damn
That's
it.
unbelievable.
Joel.
I don't know what to make of that. That feels like it's close to not career ending, but I mean, yeah, that's close to career ending in the sense of like, how long is that going to take? Are you going to miss half of next season too? And
so at least they've got Paul George to rely on.
I like on the off season, I made a couple of videos saying like this is the most important off season of Sixers history. Like you have to give this is your chance to get Joel Embiid supporting cast right. And I like what they did. They added a star, they added their depth, and then Paul George is the worst contract in the league. And it just fucking harpoons that. Just sunk to the
Embiid's
bottom of
the
the
second worst
ocean.
contract in the league.
There you go. No, it's a disaster. Like I do not think Embiid will ever win a championship. It's just you can't construct your team around guys this fragile.
So you're saying the Lakers made a mistake?
In what?
In trading for the next Joel Embiid, Luka Doncic.
Luka looks like he's a slim 220 in these interviews. Yeah, dude, he was in the sauna. He was on the Stairmaster before he flew to LA. You got a little bit of a spray tan to fit in with the locals a bit more.
I can't wait for his debut. Sad it didn't happen yet. Dylan, anything else on the Nurkic first?
Yeah, like I agree. It's you're giving up. You're a team who's trying to be good, and you're giving up assets to get off of a bad player. Like that's bad efficiency. This is probably. I think it's probably Phoenix calling it. Like this is them acknowledging. Okay, we're cooked. Like we had this deadline to try to do something to fix this team. This team isn't good enough. We couldn't fix it. We're cooked. Let's do what we can.
Is this the worst situation for any team right now? Would you rather be any other? Is Phoenix the last team you'd want to be?
No, I mean they've. Well, it depends. Like they've got Devin Booker still. Like they've got Kevin Durant. You can move Kevin Durant for something, and you try to rebuild again around Devin Booker. Like there's a lot of teams who don't even have a player or a potential way to acquire a player as good as Devin Booker. And if they wanted to, they could move Devin Booker and get 8 first-round picks. So it could be worse. From a fan perspective, like this year, like the team's got Devin Booker and Kevin Durant, and they're going to be the 11 seed. That's pretty rough. Or they're going to go to the Pacific Division play-in tournament. That's pretty brutal. But like long term, they've still got some hope. Even if they have no assets, they do still have Devin Booker and Kevin Durant.
Yeah, I mean, you could flip Durant and get a good number of picks back still. I've heard 2 reports out of Dallas.
Just not to the Warriors.
Yeah. Well, he doesn't have no trade clause. Just send him.
This is going to be... Sorry, I didn't go ahead.
I was going to say that I heard 2 reports out of Dallas that they contacted other teams before AD in the Lakers or during AD in the Lakers. And one was supposedly Milwaukee for Giannis, and they're like, we'll give you Luka for Giannis straight up. And the other was for Durant. And I'm like, there's no way the Durant call happened. But interesting that Dallas would at least kind of float that and say that they would consider a Durant for Luka straight up.
Yeah, it's called crisis management.
Yeah.
They pulled off the worst shit in NBA history, and now they've got to pretend like they did any form of due diligence. Could they maybe just call Nico Harrison and trade Bradley Beal for Kyrie in the offseason?
Maybe. Is he tough enough? Does he play enough defense?
No.
Yeah.
And he's injury prone, probably out of shape too. That's not a Nico Harrison kind of guy.
What if you threw in Royce O'Neal?
Ooh.
Now we're talking.
Man.
You could get him. I do want to note quickly that Embiid does have 24 points and 8 rebounds at half against Milwaukee, like right now. I guess it's, I don't know. I guess it's the Embiid experience. He's playing really well. And he's like, by the way, my knee will never be the same. Like, okay.
Yeah. He's like, I need to get surgery, but I'm going to get 50 this game.
He's getting 50.
Do it. All right. We got a trio of Hawks trades. So first off, we have Karis LeVert, Georges Niang, 3 seconds and 2 swaps of seconds going to Atlanta for DeAndre Hunter. Then we have the Hawks getting cash for Cody Zeller and a 2nd-round pick, just offloading him there. And then we have Atlanta getting Terrence Mann, Bones Highland for Bojan Bogdanovic and 3 seconds. So if I'm doing my seconds math right, they are down a second, but they have 2 swaps from all of those deals.
Nate, do me a favor. Could you go over, you sent me this the other day, could you go over the value possibilities that a 2nd-round pick has brought us over the last, was it 15 years?
Yeah. So I've been doing my rookie check-in series is on TikTok, and I kind of wanted to like fact check that and like what are the odds and probabilities. So I split it out. I've got first overall pick 2 through 5, 6 through 14, 15 through 30, 31 through 45, and 46 through 60. Dylan, the 31 through 45 group, what percentage of those guys would you expect to never play in the NBA?
Half.
So surprisingly, only 12% of them never play in the NBA.
Wow.
Now your deep 2nd-round picks, your 46 through 60. How many of them never get a single NBA game in?
That feels more like half.
That is 37 and a half. Now,
both higher than I thought.
Yeah, I guess the fact that you can like bring 3 guys onto 2-ways as well. You can sign 2nd-round picks to 2-ways as well. But yeah, that's surprisingly good.
Surprisingly good. Now let's talk about the guys who don't make it to the 5th season. So they play 4 or less seasons, which could be anything from 1 game to I played 4 seasons and then just never got signed again. What percentage for the starting half of the second round?
What was the question again? Teacher.
What percentage of the first half of the 2nd round don't play beyond their 4th season?
Yes.
No, that feels like half.
That is exactly half of 49.4% of them. So between never played at all and out of the league before the 5th year, you are looking at 62% of your 31 through 45 picks. For the back half, for picks 46 through 60, 81% of those guys are out of the league before year 5. So these 2nd-round picks, you're looking at like a 60 to 80% chance this guy is not a quality NBA player. Yeah. Then you've got the guys that have stuck around and are tail end of the bench. If you include that, it's 71% or 89% of your second round picks, depending on first half or second half. Your chances of getting an all-star in the first half of that second round, 1.7. And your chances in the back half are 1.2. These guys do happen. They're not entirely unicorns, but looking at guys drafted between 97 and 2020, they're really slim. You're batting really high to get one of these guys. Just get a starter, a guy who's started either 410 regular season games or 50% of their career. You're looking at 8% for the first half of the second round and 2.3% for the second half. So like getting a quality player on seconds, good luck. It's probably
So
not.
let's really think about that. Let's really think about that when Atlanta trades away DeAndre Hunter for all these second round picks.
Yeah.
It's not worth it.
I mean, well, and then they have to spend 3 seconds to get off Bojan Bogdanovic, although they do get back Terrence Mann. I think the second round picks are probably more valuable as trade assets than they are as actual draft picks. Might be the lesson that we take from this.
Do you think then that there is a inefficiency in the NBA where teams, which team is it that trades all of their second round picks? Was it Phoenix, where they just like consistently do not like care about second round picks, like they trade every single one and don't give a shit? Like, should other teams be using that inefficiency and that the league overvalues second round picks to make moves, or is it like, it's a second round pick coin, like it's worth whatever people think it's worth?
I think it's more of that. I think second round picks are worth what people think they're worth, and it's just you got to find the right sucker who's willing to give you,
you just don't want to be the guy that has to make the pick. Like you want to have them so you can move them for other stuff, but you don't want to be the guy that has to make the pick.
Have you ever seen those coin
once it
collectors?
expires, it's over.
Have you ever seen those coin collectors that like look for the misprints in coins and will pay like $1,000 for this like misprinted penny? Not like the penny with actual bronze in it, but like the penny where the stamp didn't mark it right, and now that has some intrinsic value. That's what you're looking for with second round picks. Is you're trying to find the guy that thinks that this second has more value than it actually does. But for the Cavs, DeAndre Hunter, does this shore up their lineup enough? I kind of said no on TikTok, and I've got a lot of angry Cavs fans in my mentions.
I mean, I think it's certainly a good pickup for them. They, unlike OKC, recognized that they had a weakness going into the playoffs, that they had to go up against probably the Celtics, and they had no one who could defend on the wing. DeAndre Hunter, in case no one's watched him, is not a good defender. Like he's one of those guys that looks like a good defender, but actually isn't. But he is like 6'8" and strong, and so if it's him or it's Max Strus, like he at least is going to like not get ran through by Jason Tatum or Jaylen Brown. He'll provide some form of resistance against those guys, whereas the options that they had before that just had zero chance. And then he's also really solid offensive player. Like he's a really good shooter. He can shoot on the move. He can attack a closeout. Like he is a good player. He's might have been my choice for Sixth Man of the Year this year. He's played really well offensively, and so they've probably upgraded it offensively. LeVert is a better defender in terms of he can defend guards. He's turned himself into a really good point of attack defender. But DeAndre Hunter has more size that you can throw him on a wing. Even if he's not going to necessarily be a stopper, at least he provides something there.
Yeah, I just want to know, is Evan Mobley going to be able to defend Jason Tatum one-on-one?
I think one-on-one is fine. It's just that big guys can't get over screens. And so if you put him in a screen, like he's going to have to switch. And so
Cool. So he's not going to be able to guard Tatum one-on-one because he's going to get screened off.
Yeah. But if you're screening off and now DeAndre Hunter's guarding him, that's better than screening off and now Max Strus is guarding him.
Yeah. I was thinking more for when you go small and Mobley is your 5, or like that's when you're gonna have Max Strus out there as much, or Strus and Hunter and the whole jazz. I don't know. I'm not super high on Hunter. Aaron, you got any Hunter?
Does it change your mind if I told you that DeAndre Hunter and Ty Jerome are best friends?
Yeah,
that
absolutely.
Have now been reunited.
We're a vibes-based
any love for
podcast.
friendship?
Hey, I mean, it worked for the Knicks. The Dante DiVincenzo playoff push, man. You gotta keep those vibe guys around. Keep those college roommates and buddies together. Looking at you, New York. Dylan, anything for your Clippers? Bojan Bogdanovic going to the Clippers. You'll also have now signed Ben Simmons, completing the West or the California All-Star acquisitions. Lakers get Luka, the Kings get Levine, Warriors got Jimmy Butler.
Three-time All-Star Ben Simmons.
3-time All-Star Ben Simmons. How you feeling?
Yeah, I mean I think it's a solid move. Terrence Mann had fallen deeper into the rotation, so you're not really losing much. This is one of those trades where you have to reread it to because the team that is getting the assets, you're like, wait, that can't be right. But the Clippers received assets for taking Bogdanovic, who is the better player. He has been rough this year, but so is Terrence Mann, who's also older than what people might think, but has been a really solid player in the past, and will certainly be a better offensive player than Terrence Mann or Kevin Porter Jr., who would have otherwise been getting those minutes. So I think it's an offensive upgrade, and also we got the assets moved off of Bones Highland, who was waived, so not losing anything there. And then you bring in Ben Simmons, the 3-time All-Star, to complete the front court.
Also,
Man,
another move
has been really terrible this season. I wasn't even keeping track of that. My goodness.
Yeah,
it's been rough.
Been really
37% from the field, 30% from 3, averaging 10 points, 24 games.
He's lost out his minutes to Vit Krejci. Yeah, and there was always that, will they start him or why won't they start him? Because I thought in years past, Atlanta has looked really good when him and Trey were out there together. The ball moved a lot better, especially better than Murray and Trey's combo. But they've kind of just figured out a rotation that doesn't need him. But if you can rebound some of that shooting, now you have a Norm Powell backup and just let him do the Norm Powell things. You guys also got Marjon Beauchamp for Kevin Porter Jr. So in one deadline, you guys were able to offload Bones and Kevin Porter Jr. That's a great deadline.
That's the important thing. It's not about who you gained; it's about who you were able to move away.
Aaron, on that note, any chance you want to say goodbye to Alex Len? It's our last 2 deals. One of them is Memphis Grizzlies got Marvin Bagley, Memphis Grizzlies gets Marvin Bagley III, Johnny Davis, 2 second-round picks. Wizards, Colby Jones, Marcus Smart, Alex Len, a 2025 first, and Kings get Jake LaRavia.
We're the winners of that deal. I really feel for Marcus Smart. Really what a bad trade for Memphis in acquiring him, now having to offload him, and now he's a Wizard, which is a fate worse than death. I liked Alex Len's minutes. I always hated Kobe Jones' minutes, and LaRavia looked awesome last night. And just finally, Dylan's singing in the microphone.
I'm singing emotional departing music for you to do an Alex Len farewell.
I was confused for a second. Okay, thank you. Laravia looked really good last night, and he's a wing, plays 6'8" and shoots threes, and it's like, holy shit! I heard they call them wings nowadays. Lots of teams have them, and now we're building our own.
Yeah, the only thing that I'm a little bit hesitant about is just the contract situation, where with Memphis declining his option, the team that holds his contract is now limited in how much they can pay him. It's like 5.1 million. So this might just be a short-term rental, but it's a short-term rental for nothing. And I don't know why Washington included Sacramento in this deal, because you could have just taken Jake LaRavia and gotten this deal done if you're Washington.
But they wanted they wanted a Marcus Smart, Kobe Jones pick and roll.
Mm-hmm. Kobe Jones is the worst player in the NBA. I know we mentioned Kyle Kuzma earlier. Kobe Jones is way worse than that. It is so interesting because Monty McNair never uses his second-round picks. He always like trades out of them or sells them for cash. And the one time he used it was to get Kobe Jones, and then he spent 3 years denying that Kobe Jones wasn't fucking horrible when he was bad the entire time. He's like, no, like this is my passion project. I've actually used his second rounder.
And now you see why he doesn't. Just get rid of him. All right, last deal of the deadline. James Wiseman, who is currently injured, to Toronto for a top 55 protected second round pick.
Top 55? Why even send it? Or you have to send something?
You're contractually obligated to send something. So this is what you do. You send the nothing pick.
Why not top 59? Why not just say unless you win the championship? What's the point?
That would be the only way to make this any funnier. Top 59 protected second round pick. But, how bad of a player do you have to trade to get a top 59 protected second round pick?
James Wiseman with a torn Achilles is about as bad as it gets. I don't know if there's possibly a way.
Ultimate expiring contract. So it's not like this is, hey, acquire him for hopes of futures. This is literally, we just need you to eat this salary.
Mm-hmm.
Mm. Right.
They also sent cash to help with the eating of the salary.
We need you to eat his salary, and also we'll pay you his salary. Right. Final takeaway. Amid a perspective, the first trade deadline under the fully implemented new CBA, Draymond Green has come out and said that it's this dog shit CBA's fault. It's the second apron that has spooked the Mavs into trading Luka. There's that negative effect. A bunch of teams didn't spend their MLE in the offseason, didn't sign good players or take punts on young players who could develop. Instead, kept that slot for taking on salary that needed dumping so they can get second round picks that are worth nothing. This bad CBA is permeating every aspect of the league, including the trade deadline.
It's very true. It's interesting because I think Luka, it was like kind of the first of its kind. I know it seems like trading a 25-year-old who might be the best player in the world someday is like that'll never happen again, but I think trades of that magnitude are now more possible when teams can be genuinely afraid of those supermax contracts. Because I mean, when players are super duper stars, you don't even think about it. But now teams really do think about it. And I think in the future, you may see huge stars moved for similar reasons.
I think you're probably going to see a lot more of the secondary guys not getting max contracts, which I think would be a really healthy thing for the league.
Well, I mean, if that happens, you end up with a Jimmy Butler and Brandon Ingram case where you have to trade these guys for terrible returns, so that because there's only one team in the NBA that's willing to overpay them.
I mean, partially though, but it's also partial because they were already given those max contracts. Like, should Ingram have had a max the contract that Ingram's on? If that contract, instead of what was it, 30 something million a year, if that was 20 million a year, there's probably a lot more takers for that. And so I think teams might play a little bit more hardball with their guys. Yeah, Ingram's making $38 million this season. If he's making 20, that probably more teams are going after him. That's not what
I don't think it's.
s-
I don't think it's this current contract. It's the fact that he wants that he wanted $50 million a year in an extension. It's the
Sure.
Knicks contract that's the bad part, which is why they weren't able to get any assets, or which is why they got 1 second-round pick for trading him. A guy who's like a
But the thing
fringe,
is,
like the next tier below an all-star, and they got a second-round pick.
yeah. But if you don't give him the initial contract, like this breaking point has to happen at some point. You can't just give maxes to any young player that you think is going to be good at some point. Like, I think that's more what's going to change. Is there's going to be a little bit more hardballing. You're not going to see the instant max off of rookie extensions for just everybody. Like Scotty Barnes got a full max contract off of his rookie extension. Is he going to live up to that? We'll see. Maybe you start having more teams push back on that and start giving them 3/4 of a max.
Yeah. The counterpoint to that, though, is the rising cap. So the cap is going to grow faster than the raises in NBA contracts. So if you're able to sign a guy long term, technically those out years are more valuable because the cap's going to rise faster than what their contract will. So you've got that conflicting theory to deal with as you try to figure out what to sign your third option to.
Yeah. Well, maybe just sign everybody. Yeah, then just give everybody the maxes. Why are we so afraid of giving Luka the super max if the cap's just going to go up exponentially, and then everyone's getting what Luka's getting? Like it just, I don't know. I think this year was a big panic. I don't expect this to be a trend moving forward, like from a meta context. Like I don't think we're going to see nearly as many players of even an Ingram caliber traded next offseason or next deadline.
All right. Well, I'll be dreading the trade in Wembanyama to duck the second apron trade that we get in a couple of years.
That's the Lakers' next big move next season.
Woo.
As soon as a guy's drafted, they just start like, "Oh fuck, we can't extend this guy. We can't extend. What are we gonna do?"
Yeah, that they just trade like there's young superstar every year for a first round.
You get 9 years to figure it out.
Superstar and just keep rotating them.
No, teams are gonna trade out of their first round draft picks. They're gonna get the first overall pick. They're gonna win the lottery and be like, "God damn it! No,
I have to give this guy a $60 million a year extension. I can't afford
I have
that.
to pay this guy in 5 years. Fuck."
All right. We've devolved into nothingness, gentlemen. Good hour and a half of recording. Yep. Aaron, where can
you guys gonna
you?
go watch the game?
That's right. I have work. I work straight. I work on 2 to 10 on Sundays, but the game is on.
Which game?
The fucking Super Bowl, Nate. God damn it! Where I started the fucking podcast with.
I thought there was like a basketball game going on right now. I don't care about football.
Is there NBA today?
Took second.
Yeah, it's happening right now.
Yeah, oh, yeah. Raptors Rockets going on right now. 76ers Bucks.
That's interesting. I thought they would have put a bunch of dog shit matchups today because no one's going to watch anyway. I guess I did start with Hornets Pistons.
Pistons.
That's
These
about
games
as
will
rough
be
as
over
it
by
gets.
the time the big games.
They went early. There we go.
Yeah.
It's the pre-show.
Aaron,
for
where
the
can the
Super Bowl.
Aaron, where can the people find you?
Possible Chairs on TikTok. One word, Possible Chairs on Twitter. My Patreon for various things. My Cameo, if you want me to pay me to say certain things, I'll say anything for $10. And this podcast occasionally.
Dylan, where can the people find you?
On Aaron's Patreon, paying him $10 to spread propaganda. I actually make up a whole bunch of fake accounts just to give Aaron money to slowly form his will into my perspective. And every week
Thank
on the
you. We
Hoops
have to
Temple
figure out ways
podcast,
to get...
where Aaron's going to be agreeing with me a lot more from now on.
Dylan, that's a really good point. That's what happened in our top 100 list. We put Halliburton like ninth.
Yeah, I actually paid Aaron $10
all right.
per
Find me
player.
Nate
So it was
_hoops.
an expensive episode.
Go ahead, Nate.
I'm just saying it's a good thing that you got those buys in before the tariffs come, because who knows what's going to happen. You might have to pay it.
It's going to be a lot more expensive
Yeah,
to
$12.50
to buy Aaron's takes.
All right. Find me Nate _hoops temple, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube. You can email the show hoopstemple@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you guys. Thanks for listening.